For years, Alzheimer's disease has been treated like an inevitability, a cruel trick of aging, or the unfortunate roll of a genetic dice. If it runs in your family, you brace for it. If not, you hope for the best. But a growing wave of research is now flipping that fatalism on its head. Increasingly, scientists are asking a provocative and deeply unsettling question: what if Alzheimer's isn't just a disease of age or genes? What if it's something we're breathing in every single day? This isn't fringe speculation anymore. There is now a growing scientific consensus that Alzheimer's disease, long assumed to be a slow, internal, inevitable process, may be partially preventable and significantly driven by environmental exposures, with air pollution at the top of the list. To be clear, we're not talking about some abstract smoggy concept. We're talking about fine particulate matter, PM 2.5, nitrogen dioxide and O2, ozone, and ultrafine particles small enough to enter the bloodstream, cross the blood-brain barrier, and lodge in brain tissue. These pollutants don't just cause lung damage. They infiltrate the brain, ignite chronic inflammation, and promote the exact kind of neural decay, oxidative stress, mitochondrial dysfunction, tau tangle formation, amyloid plaque buildup that defines Alzheimer's. In other words, the biological fingerprint of pollution looks disturbingly similar to the signature pathology of dementia. And the damage starts early. Research has shown that children and young adults living in polluted urban areas already display signs of neuroinflammation and preclinical Alzheimer's markers, decades before any symptoms. A study out of Mexico City found amyloid beta plaques in the brains of children exposed to chronic air pollution, alongside cognitive and behavioral issues. These aren't isolated findings. Studies from the US, Canada, Europe, and Asia consistently show that long-term exposure to dirty air is associated with faster cognitive decline, higher dementia risk, and reduced brain volume, even after controlling for age, income, and education. One pivotal study from the University of Southern California found that women over 65 exposed to high levels of PM 2.5 had a 92% greater risk of developing dementia, particularly Alzheimer's. Other studies show that the risk of cognitive impairment rises even in people without the APOE4 gene, the gene most commonly associated with Alzheimer's risk, suggesting pollution may be its own independent pathway to disease. This flips the narrative. We've been treating Alzheimer's like a genetic curse, when in fact many cases may be environmental poisonings in slow motion. And that leads to an even more disturbing implication. Alzheimer's may be, in part, preventable. That's good news, right? Not entirely. Because if a significant portion of dementia cases are driven by air pollution, then millions of people are being needlessly exposed to a brain-damaging agent every single day. And governments, industries, and regulators, all armed with this knowledge, are doing far too little, far too slowly. Think about what this means. If reducing PM 2.5 levels could delay the onset of Alzheimer's by just a few years, the public health benefits would be enormous, not just in human suffering, but in economic terms. Alzheimer's is already one of the most expensive diseases on Earth, with annual global costs exceeding $1.3 trillion. Slowing its progression even modestly could save billions. Yet instead of treating clean air like a medical intervention, we're still debating vehicle emissions and building permits like it's just about asthma. This is no longer about just quality of life. It's about neurological survival. What makes this especially infuriating is that pollution is a modifiable risk factor. Unlike your genes, you can't change your DNA, but you can regulate tailpipe emissions. You can enforce clean air standards. You can redesign cities with green infrastructure and limit residential development near highways. The tools exist. We're just not using them fast enough to prevent a global wave of preventable brain damage. And it's not an equal opportunity threat. Marginalized communities are far more likely to live in high-pollution areas, near industrial zones, traffic corridors, and neglected infrastructure. These are the same communities with fewer healthcare resources, higher rates of metabolic disease, and less access to early dementia care. So what we're witnessing isn't just a public health crisis, it's an environmental injustice playing out inside the brain. And yet, despite the data, Alzheimer's continues to be branded as an enigma, a disease of mystery, fate, or family history. Meanwhile, industries pollute freely, Urban sprawl goes unchecked, and policymakers fail to connect the dots between air and cognition. Here's the truth we've been avoiding. The air we breathe is shaping the way we age. And in many cases, it's doing more than just aging us. It's erasing us, memory by memory, neuron by neuron. So yes, Alzheimer's may be a disease of age and genetics, but it's increasingly clear that it's also a disease of policy failure, of environmental neglect, of deliberate blindness to decades of scientific warning signs. We could clean the air. We could rewire the future of cognitive aging. But until we do, we're not just watching Alzheimer's rise. We're helping build the conditions that guarantee it.